Jai Hind. I'm Colonel Sanjay Pande. This is the fourth and the concluding video of my series on AGNIPATH and AGNIVEER. I will call this video Straight Talk, point blank. And since whatever I'm going to talk in this video is not going to be palatable to most, hence it is very important that I establish my credibility before even you start seeing this video. Who is Colonel Sanjay Pande? Who am I? I will not waste time on this. Please visit my YouTube channel. There is a 10-minute video on who is Colonel Sanjay Pande. The link of that video is in the description box or it is in the script, which will be there on my website www.colonelsanjaypande.com. Also, I am a veteran. You should not trust me. Secondly, why should you trust me? Both questions are as important. Answers to both these questions are in my Veterans Declaration video, which is on my YouTube channel, and in script, which is on my website www.colonelsanjaypande.com. Link of that is given in the description box in the video and also in the script. And these declarations are in public domain from years. Last and the third point, before I start, how do I analyze? I have no connection with any person serving or retired or in media or in civil. How do I analyze then? You must see a channel called Quantum Personality. It is my channel on YouTube, which has got numerous videos on what makes a quantum personality. In that, there are 3 videos on timeline series, simultaneity, and sequentiality. If you put all of these 3 together, there is no issue, however complex it is, that you cannot sort out. I have been a follower of quantum personality from the last 40 years. That gives me the ability to analyze things the way I do. Whether you get convinced or not is entirely a different thing. So let's get started. In the first video of the series, I had covered the macro issues of AGNIPATH and AGNIVEER. I had simply made a statement there that don't ask me on my comments on AGNIPATH and AGNIVEER. Do not ask me to defend the scheme. Do not ask me to defend army. Do not ask me to defend the political class, the ruling party or the government. My job is to analyze. Forming opinion is yours. So my job is to give you everything on a plate. What you make out of it is up to you. The second video thereafter was on the AGNIPATH scheme and on AGNIVEER's. It was nothing else but what exactly the government has uploaded on various websites, or the armed forces has taken a cue from those documents and uploaded this. So anything that was non-government does not seep in this particular video, that is video number 2, which was on the scheme. The third video was about the AGNIVEERs. Before, during and after. It was purely about this youth before joining, during and after. I think this was released day before yesterday. I have given the links of all the 3 videos in the description box. They are also there in the script. You can watch them on my channel. Today's Straight Talk is all about every stakeholder who has come to prominence in the last 10-15 days and to analyze their actions only. What all have they done? When I put all these actions on a timeline, there are certain actions which should have happened earlier. There are certain actions which should have happened simultaneously, and there are certain actions which had to take place in a very sequential manner. As soon as I put all these 5-6 stakeholders together and their activities on a timeline, a very clear picture emerges. I'm just going to cover this. At the end of the video, I would be giving my observations, you can call it recommendations, or what is it that I see in AGNIVEER as to how it should proceed ahead. Also, at the end of the video, I will be talking in brief something for the armed forces, specific to armed forces. The day-to-day changes that have taken place right from the day Honorable Raksha Mantri announced the scheme and the immediate reaction to it thereafter and the announcements almost on a daily basis which are taking place, it gives a feeling to the entire community that is watching this very, very closely, is that everyone, the complete establishment is in a defensive mode. You come in defensive mode when you are not prepared. Had you been prepared, no one would be in defensive mode to that extent where you have to put the Deputy Secretary, DMA or General Puri on a video in a live press conference to give out his points. Now, whatever he talks during his conference, again, the same thing need to be put on a timeline. And they have to be seen along with numerous other things which already exist on the timeline. Whatever he is saying, it will automatically come out if whatever he has said in that press conference also stands the test of time. We are talking about the age limit being extended the very next day. 10% of CAPF being announced by Home Ministry. Bank loan provided. Now, this is Finance Ministry. UGC skill recognition declared. Now, you will agree, this is a third ministry. Open schooling. Again, this is another ministry. 10% job vacancies reserved in Ministry of Defense. The mother ministry from where the scheme has come out. It doesn't stop here. Assam government says they will absorb 100% of Agniveers. CM Mr. Khattar comes up, he says that he will absorb most of them. Someone says it is a very well thought out project. From last 2 years, the work is on. The scheme now suddenly becomes a pilot project. The scheme which is announced by Raksha Mantri, which the entire country understood as the final scheme, suddenly on 6th or 7th day becomes a pilot project. That they wanted to start with very small numbers. So did you hear about it in the last 7-8 days? You never heard about it. Or did the document say, which is uploaded the day Honorable Raksha Mantri ji announced that? No, we did not. Suddenly the entire corporate lines up, as it always does, and the industry lines up behind the ruling party as if they have been shown a stick by the ruling party. And they now come up on TV that they will absorb, and none of them will ever tell you how many ex-servicemen they have absorbed in last 2 decades and in what capacity. Industry and corporates have got absolutely poor record when it comes to absorbing ex-servicemen. They only look at the armed forces personnel unless a person has got a special qualification, like say Air Force guys have in aircraft maintenance, right? Unless a person is a specialist, they only see towards armed forces as security guards. And they talk in extremely derogatory manner at all times. This is the corporate and this is the industry, and suddenly the same corporate industry now comes up on TV to say we will absorb. When the first Agniveer comes out after 5 years, let me tell you, none of them will ever come on TV to tell you, to give you data as to where they were involved, in what positions they have been involved, and what salaries they have been given. The Director General of Resettlement, from nowhere, no one even knows that he exists, suddenly comes up, and I read an article yesterday where he has called a meeting from every ministry, and half the people do not attend his meeting, and it is all about the number of people they are supposed to be absorbing, the ex-servicemen, and he has asked for the state. This is my 16th year of retirement. I have never seen the DGR in public domain talking about it, but he suddenly has to talk about it now. Let me assure you that even the central government vacancies, wherever ex-servicemen vacancies have been given across India, whether it is central government or state government, you take the data, probably not more than 20% are occupied. Rest all, they don't even advertise, they don't even absorb anyone. This is our attitude towards the ex-servicemen. And now we talk about Agniveer, who actually is not a very highly educated person. ITI maybe, maximum, or maybe an engineer from some college where, the salaries, the opening starting salaries will be very low. They will join. So now we are talking about these Agniveers, and everyone converts him into a superman who will join the corporate, who will completely change the future of India. It's very surprising when it comes from intellectuals. So overall, what impression I am getting? I am getting an impression that ruling party is silent, and it keeps on sending random politicians to make random statements, or putting their chief ministers in front of media. But other than pro-Agniveer, there is nothing they talk of. They never talk about the ex-servicemen who have been coming out in hordes, 50,000, 60,000 each year from at least the last 2 decades. They don't talk about them. But now everyone talks about Agniveer. Government keeps on announcing schemes every day, something that you have not even heard on the day of launch, or it doesn't contain in the documents. Armed forces from nowhere have suddenly come as the shield to the scheme, taking upon them the complete responsibility of the scheme, as if it's a big mistake done by someone and you are shielding someone. Why do we have to do that? If it's a beautiful, well thought out scheme, I think every Indian will join you in promoting it. There's something not correct. Veterans, the less said the better about this community. If there is anyone who has actually helped lowering and decreasing the respect for the armed forces in India, it is the veteran lot. All you have to do is to watch TV for 7 days continuously. More about it later. And when you lastly, inclusivity in such a big scheme which is going to change your complete armed forces, affect national security, and affect the future of the country, the operational and the training heads of the 3 armed forces. My question is, where are they? So let me cover one by one. I will talk about the stakeholders, different stakeholders, and what they have done, right? And which you all have seen. It's all in media. It's happening right in front of our eyes. Ruling party has been sending politicians to the media, and they get wide publicity. They're spreading the word. So I think that this entire plan was conceived in the ruling party, and thereafter it was just given to the armed forces to execute. The vintage can be 2 years, the vintage can be 15 days. The more I analyze, the more I can accurately predict when this has been made. General VK Singh, the Ghaziabad MP of the ruling party, was caught unawares by a reporter other day. And on TV he has said about Agniveer scheme, मुझे इसके बारे में कुछ मालूम नहीं है. I don't know anything about it. 2 days later, he is on TV, he is on panels everywhere and very, very aggressively defending it. I don't have to say anything on it. Within few days, the entire corporate world lines up and starts coming on TV defending Agniveer. So unless the ruling party has pushed them into it, why should they be coming? So again, there is a ruling party shadow here. Ruling party CM start coming up, that they will absorb Agniveers. No one talks about ex-servicemen. Everyone talks about Agniveer now. So that army of past on which the entire country has always been toting on suddenly becomes a non-topic. Agniveer is the only topic. There's a ruling party MP says that every party office will employ Agniveers only as security guards. Another one says that we'll train them as barbers, electricians and all this. What exactly, where are we going? The past experience of the ruling party from 2015 OROP time till date probably told them that there is a vast gap in understanding between the veterans and this. So probably they wanted to draw a line to separate and to support only Agniveers. So ruling party does not talk of anything other than Agniveer all across the spectrum, which gives me a feeling that yes, this is nothing else but a baby of the ruling party. Now comes government. One is government and one are ministries. First I'll take government. How does it happen that after the protests start, or I'll say, why does it happen that after the protests start, the next day onwards, such schemes start getting announced on which Ministry of Defense or the armed forces have no control, like 10% CAPF vacancies. That's Home Ministry. Or you talk about the bank loan, extending of loan. That is Finance Ministry. We talk about UGC certificate. That is a different ministry. We talk about online schooling. That is a different ministry. So this is not with Ministry of Defense. This is government. How is it that the entire government machinery has come together in 4 or 5 days and started announcing? Obviously, everything points back to the ruling party and the ministers and the directions which must have been passed. It also gives an impression that Ministry of Defense and the armed forces who are responsible owners of the scheme, probably within them also there was no sync. Either the armed forces were out of it or the Ministry of Defense was out of it. But Ministry of Defense and all other ministries, when they come together and defend the scheme and now read with whatever the ruling party actions are, one can confidently say that yes, the armed forces or whoever was working on this document was working in complete isolation with absolutely no access to any other ministry or within the ministry even to the MOD. So maybe one department was doing it, maybe DMA. They were not even interacting with the armed forces, the service headquarters for that matter. This is what the impression is created. Who has made this document which has been uploaded on the net? To be very honest, personally, I would like to know the ownership. In which office, who is the person who has made it? Because as I've said in the first video or second video, I think, yeah, I find it absolutely juvenile. It is. We're talking about Ministry of Defense. Let me give you some points for Ministry of Defense to think. If the entire scheme was made in MOD, my first question is, why was the recruitment of 2021 by all the three services not stopped? It should have never taken place. Why did the entire recruitment take place? And thereafter, the candidates, it is announced that all those letters, that recruitment is cancelled. that everyone will be part of Agniveer? The service headquarters don't take telephone calls. That is what people are writing in the social media. Why does it happen? If it was being made there, the recruitment would have been stopped. It continued, which means there was a lack of communication between MOD and the service headquarters. That's why the recruitment went on. And after they have started protesting, now to say that they can join as Agniveers only, age limit is increased. So it simply says that, yeah, the thought process has actually not been developed to cater to all these contingencies. If no one has seen the protests, I doubt the capability of the people who have planned it. It's a very, very natural thing in India. Anyone who has been denied an opportunity to his livelihood, salary, he is going to protest. No? Also, if MOD was involved, it also would know that tremendous amount of savings would accrue over a period of 10 to 15 years. You may not require Directorate General of Resettlement if every Agniveer is getting absorbed. Why do you require it? You do not require Kendriya Sainik Board except for looking after the people who are already retired widows. So you would probably have a very, very high level digitized platform where you can do away with all Rajya Sainik boards and Zilla Sainik boards. Over a period of time, of course. Isn't this a saving? As soon as the education level of Agniveer at a higher plane has been announced, is there a requirement of the type of training being imparted by people who are in education core in all the three services? Is it not a big saving? It's a big saving. In fact, they are not going to be required. So when you talk about Ministry of Defense, there are a huge number of benefits that the scheme gives, besides the youthful profile and everything. So why is none of this in the document or public domain? There is absolutely nothing secretive about it. There are no secrets. This is for the recruits, for the youth of the country, which means you have to reach out to the youth, and you will reach out through media, you will reach out through print, you will reach out through government letters, so that we haven't reached out. So why are we dealing with this as a very, very secretive scheme? It is not secretive scheme. I think it is, one has been not prepared for it. You don't have anything. It's all coming in later. If it was there and it has not been published, I don't have much to comment on it. Okay. Now coming to army or armed forces, I have covered the ruling party, I have covered government, I have covered Ministry of Defense. Now let me come to the armed forces. Armed forces, we are talking about theaterization. We are talking about CDS. We are talking about all the three services operating jointly. And here we present the most disjointed picture when it comes to Agniveers. My simple questions: are the training command heads of all the three services part of Agniveer planning? That takes care of training. Second question: are all the operational army commanders and equivalent of Air Force and Navy who will take care of operations, are they part of the Agniveer scheme, the concept, to the working? Are we to understand that Honorable Prime Minister, who has been seen attending the senior commanders conference, the various Army, Navy, Air Force combined conferences, and to whom the access of CDS is easy, has been completely kept out of the scheme, that The state comes wherein the protests actually paints the ruling party in a very, and indirectly the Prime Minister in a very, very negative way. Someone has to take the blame for it. Who is it? Army, so training and operations, and Prime Minister. Three things you have to answer. The statement has been made that more than 2 years have been spent working on the scheme. If that is the time which has been spent on the scheme, I have certain questions. Why is the scheme launched so suddenly when the target client actually is the youth? Where unless you publicize, unless you advertise, which you always do you have it in you? Touch the sky with glory. So you are always trying to reach the youth. So here you have no recruitment taking place from the last 2 years because of COVID. There is a shortfall of manpower. Everyone is in dire need of manpower, and there is absolutely no advertisement. No one knows how these exams are going to be conducted. Are these going to be conducted a common entrance exam for all the three services? The minimum benchmark that a youth must clear before he is considered as per his choice for Army, Navy or Air Force? If that was so, that exam should have been announced. Why is it that in the last 4 days, Army has given its commencement of training from a certain date? I think it is December, something like that. I may be wrong. Air Force is given now, Navy some other date. Why are the 3 dates so different? If the scheme was so well conceived and 2 years work had gone on it, I'm sure my experience in armed forces is there can be no organizations more meticulous than Army which can actually foresee. We are trained to foresee, work out contingencies, and thereafter work in absolutely a cluttered, I'll say, environment, and we still always win. Where exactly is that spirit here? No one knows what the selection process is going to be. No one knows, has anyone told that when the Agniveers come, they also would be becoming cooks and barbers and safaiwalas, as well as the aircraft technician, or they may go in submarines, or they may go in tanks, artillery, everywhere? Or is it that after they have joined and cleared, they will be presented a fait accompli that this is what is allotted to you and you will do this? Is that a very right way of doing it? There is no clarity. I am extremely surprised by one line which has been inserted in the document, which has got absolutely no relevance to the entire document, to the entire ethos of joint manship. Regimentation will be maintained. I smell something bad here. This needs more deliberation as to why this line has come here. Where is all India merit, all India, all classes? Where are they? That has been killed by one line. I'll come to the veterans now. The community which keeps on telling India that there is no one more than them who know about forces. What they were, or what their aspirations are today, or what their open aspirations are, or what their hidden aspirations are. How they have changed completely, and that Naam Namak Nishan does not matter, it matters conveniently. Till yesterday, the people who were fighting for their own soldiers and on their men, today they dump them very so conveniently when they talk about Agniveer. Someone who has been talking about very high standard of training and how many years it takes for a soldier to be, made into a soldier, today are very, very happy with Agniveers. They're just supporting. No one talks about armed forces. No one talks about training. My father was in Air Force. I still remember when he would come home, he was a master warrant officer, retired as an honorary flight lieutenant. I still remember how happy he would be when he would come home, when a flight lieutenant or a squadron leader or a wing commander told him, Mr. Pandey, if you were not here, I don't think anyone could have ever found this mistake out. Whatever the technical things were. This is what experience does. Here, Agniveer, 4 years, surgical cut, and we are ready to finish everything. No one wants to defend the forces. No one wants to even tell India what exactly the training is. And this is the first time I have been able to very clearly identify something that I have been saying from almost about 7 years now, that veterans should not be taken as representatives of armed forces. They are individuals. They have aspirations. They are political veterans. There are apolitical veterans. There are masquerading veterans who will keep on pretending as if they are veterans and very, very loyal to the nation, but at the same time they are working for their own ambition. So everyone has got some ambition. Soon as you catch them, you say the constitution permits. So they are conveniently regimental, they are conveniently civilians. So you have to be very careful. I don't think I won't talk much about it, except only one thing. If you have your veterans declaration and uploaded it, you don't have a place to upload, send it to me, I'll upload it on my channel. Unless you have declared it, I think the veteran community is a very grey community. Corporate ruling party states, I have spoken enough about it. Yeah, corporate is just going to stand in line wherever the ruling party asks it to stand, and it does so, very, very honestly. With this, I come to my take, my recommendations, my understanding. It will be in two parts. One is for the general public and one is for the armed forces only. In the present form, I think, and please mark my words, in the present form, I find Agniveer as an ill-conceived, ill-planned, and a not fully thought-out scheme. That's a statement. All stakeholders have been kept out of the scheme, and I do not see their footfall anywhere near like the training commands or maybe the operational commands and their commanders and their views. No one has been involved in this scheme. There is no mention of a 4-year stint by a soldier and the future army or future armed forces being manned by people with short stints like this. There is no document available in public domain in any form in the last 20 years. In the last 20 years, the most spoken of documents have been only two. One is Kargil Committee report and second is Koshyari Committee report. If you have heard of any other third document concerning military, please tell me. So where is it that this sudden 4-year stint has come from? I do not expect any rollback on Agniveer scheme. Now that it has come, rolling back is not going to be in good taste. At the same time, continuing with the scheme in the present form is going to be absolutely disastrous for the armed forces and for the country. So there has to be a middle path. I am suggesting that. The most important thing in the first 15 years of a soldier is his experience, which in no way can be given to Agniveers. No one can give them. This is osmosis. One learns staying with them. So I think as a start, after 4 years, 25% are required to be absorbed. Each year, this is going to be only 25%. I think they should release only 10% after 4 years. 5th year, another 10%. 6th year, another 10%. And likewise, over a period of 10 years, keep on increasing that. Review it each year. If you want to increase that from 10 to 15%, do that. So whatever you are hiring now, release them in smaller percentage, which can keep on increasing over a period of time. It ensures that whatever experience soldiers have up to 15-16 years is very, very easily taken in by the Agniveers, and in 10 years you would have replaced the complete bracket from 5th year service to 17-year service. The 12 years which are being completely ignored today, it will be full of Agniveers who are experienced. Thereafter, the percentage can always be increased. What I'm saying is, it has to be very well thought of. What is going to be the wastage rate? Do not give pension, give them jobs, give them 100% surety that they will get jobs after they have been released from the armed forces. Give them that assurance. Let the corporate and everyone who is promising now, fill up all the government vacancies. I don't see there is going to be any problem. Complete change of internal requirements of soldiers for the next rank need to be changed, because if you are going to take and induct people with higher qualifications, the current qualifications existing in armed forces need to be upgraded to a much higher level, which in turn means that the officers are going to be found wanting if after some time Agniveer and the officer cadre come at par when it comes to knowledge. Officers right from the National Defense Academy, the Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, the Officers Training Academy and Indian Military Academy, their complete syllabus of training has to be overhauled immediately, so that whatever they are vacating is partly taken up by Agniveers over a period of time, and these people are upgraded to a much higher level. Today, I am sorry to say, the knowledge of geopolitics and knowledge about the bigger politics beyond Indian borders is very, very limited, practically zero, I would say. Inducting that sort of a knowledge at 22, 23 years service is not very desirable. Or maybe 25, 26 years service. That is what is happening. So we need to, so when we talk about armed forces, when we talk about Agniveer, when we talk about a smooth transition, it will come at a cost. It cannot be surgically cut. If the aim is to surgically cut it, then in that case, everything is absolutely fine. That is where the next generation officers will matter, next generation thinking will matter, which does not as of now. Coming to the last part, I have in the last 8 years been writing extensively on radical military reforms. Radical military reforms that we require for theaterization, radical military reforms that we require for jointmanship, and radical military reforms that we desperately require in Indian Army. I am going to make a video of this. Being from Army, the only institution I'll blindly trust is the office of the Chief of the Army Staff. The video will be with me. I will hand it over to the staff of the Chief of Army Staff. From there, it can definitely go to the other chiefs and also to the office of the DMA. That is the loyalty I have to uniform, and that is the loyalty I have to nation. I will not talk about these radical military reforms in public domain or write it here. So I have it. This is an open offer. If I am not reached from the office of the Chief of Army Staff, then it actually is going to be very clear to me also that yes, we are not interested in reforms. Thank you and Jai Hind.